of this line, subject to them working around the First Utility District vault.
Yes, here.
Yes, but they're not representing TDS.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to say, because if any of you knew Jerry, you'd be like, okay. I actually spoke with Tom Nitz with TDS, and then I also had emailed back and forth with Nathan Stanislawski or something like that, and Alice Forsyth, and we are all in agreement. They will be getting boring permits from the engineering, from the town, to bore under the road, and that's...
Disruption in traffic.
There will probably be some disruption as they're burying, but they will have flag people out there and everything, just because it will be close to the edge of the right-of-way.
Question?
Yep, know what size conduit they're burying?
They said it would fit in a 1 to 2 inch conduit, so I don't know how big 96 pair fiber line is, but it's definitely going to fit in a 1 to 2 inch conduit, so.
Everything is worked out with the utility district. Okay. Any more questions? Do I have a motion? Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion and hearing of a land disturbance plan and clearing permit for the Clarity Point and Assisted Living Facility, 901 Concord Road, parcel 37.04, tax map 153, 12.3 acres, zone C1, C-1. GBS Engineering, Mark Balick, applicant. Balick, I'm sorry. You'll answer to anything?
I answer anything but late for dinner.
In your packet, I included aerial photographs and the land disturbance plan. The next 3 items, these are all tied very closely together with the this being kind of the first step in the process so that they can clear this aerial photograph. I don't have a color one on me, but maybe here.
What she's trying to say is currently the property was at one time a Christmas tree farm back in the early 70s, and they didn't farm all the trees off. So now those trees that are left are basically about 20 foot on center, or about 35 feet tall, and about 8 to 10 inches in diameter. And in order for us to do this development, and the pine trees do not require to be mitigated because they're under the 15 inches in diameter as required by ordinance. But in order for us to do this development, it's going to take probably 2 weeks to clear the property down, just getting rid of the trees before we can actually start grading. And the developer, knowing the weather periods and everything, he wants to get started clearing trees as fast as possible. That's why we're trying to do the land clearing permit. While they're clearing, we'll be doing everything impossible with your approval to get our grading permit to do all the site work. The developer's intent is to have all the site work done by the end of this year. While at the same time, the architect is in the process of getting the building plans ready so that we can get the building started the first of next year. But as everybody knows, October is the driest month, and as soon as you get in November, it starts turning wet, and we don't want to, we could have some real problems out there with a lot of, we're moving 20 to 23,000 yards of dirt in order to do this development, and we'd like to do it in the dry period as much as possible. So that's why I'm asking for a clearing permit first, so we can start clearing hopefully by the first of, not next Monday, but the Monday after, while I'm in the process of getting my grading permit to do all the site work.
You said it very succinctly. Thank you, Mark.
You're more than welcome. And by the way, I'm Mark Balick with GBS Engineering.
And staff is recommending approval of this land disturbance plan clearing permit, subject to items 1 through 8, the 8th one being meet all town requirements.
We have no objections to that. we would like the approval to do that.
Does anybody have any questions on the commission? Anyone in the audience? Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Discussion and public hearing of a preliminary plat for a new road to access Clarity Point, an assisted living facility, 901 Concord Road, parcel 37.04, tax map 153, 12.3 acres, zone C-1, 3 lots. GBS Engineering with Mark Bialik, applicant.
This is a preliminary plat, so this is for the public improvements aspect of this proposed development. The public improvements being the road, the utilities, the walking trails, and as part of the subdivision of the property, the 10% open space reservation. I would like to point out that this area down here that they have identified as open space, that is area that's heavily wooded with deciduous trees, and they are designated that as the open space. At this time, they do not know how parcel 2 will be developed, and so we talked about that may be modified depending on, what is used, how the property is used in the future, that it may be at a different location on that property. And so they have added a plat note to the plat stating that open space may be relocated upon development of the property, and that's not a problem. I just wanted to let you be aware of that in case that when something comes before you that this may change at some point in time in the future. But they are doing a walking trail, and they're doing a walking trail along the new proposed road, and then there will be, the walking trail will extend back to the buffer strip there, and it will run to the north side and the south side of the north and south sides of that property. As part of the Concord Road improvements, of which you are going to be looking at next month, there is a walking trail that will be constructed on the west side of Concord Road, as it is proposed right now. And so if that project stalls for some reason, they will end up doing it, but we're going with the optimistic feeling that it will proceed as planned. But the walking trail system that they're proposing ties well into that system. And the reason on the west side of Concord Road there'll be a walking trail is because we worked with Knox County representatives in the state of Tennessee because this ties into the overall greenway network of not only Farragut but also into the work that Knox County is doing. Terry Shupp, the Knox County Greenways Coordinator, she spearheaded that coordination, and they have taken it one step further with adding it on their plan, which we feel is a wonderful amenity for the site plan that will be discussed as part of the next item. We're recommending approval of this preliminary plat, subject to items numbers 1 through 24, number 24 being meet all town requirements. Most of these items are add a little detail here, add a little detail there. None of these from staff's perspective, unless Mark has any questions or issues or anything like that. These are really just minor tweaking issues to make sure that all the information is on the preliminary plat so that when the contractor's handed the plans, they can get started and there's no confusion.
Gone over these and
I have gone over all the comments. The only one, and Ruth and I discussed this a little bit before the meeting, is on the, I hate to go backwards for a second, but on the land clearing permit, it says proposed a $42,000 letter credit for erosion control. When you add up the letter credit for the preliminary plat and for the site development, that's $42,000. I want, the developers asked me to see that if the town is actually looking for $84,000 worth of erosion control protection, or is it $42,000 for the whole project? And Ruth said that that's something Daryl and I can discuss and take care of. And I'm more than happy with that. So as I would like to recommend, ask for approval subject to these items.
Have this clear for what he and Dan are going to discuss.
Basically, if, for example, if they get the clearing permit, and they post the letter of credit, the letter of credit is based on disturbance, and when Daryl does the calculations, if I understand correctly, he's assuming a ground zero that nothing has happened. So if they've already got a letter of credit and that's what he intended with that,
I
then
really
then
think
it's
with
already
Daryl's,
placed.
yeah,
I think Mark and I agree with this, but I don't want to speak out of turn in case I'm wrong.
right. And I do remember the first round of comments for the site development was a total letter of credit for $42,000. I think it's just something Daryl and I can work out. And it's a minor issue. Developer realizes he's got to post a letter of credit. He doesn't have a problem. He just wants to make sure he hopefully only post one for the whole thing and not have, because every time you do, you have to get paid for it. So he's trying to minimize his cost. That's all.
Ruth, I have a question for you. Number 18, that with the TDOT, with the heavier pavement schedule, what's that all about?
That is dealing with the deceleration lane. I did not point that out. They are, although we know that Concord Road will be widened, it will be a few years, a couple of years at a minimum before this happens. It's always a good idea to have a deceleration lane just to prevent rear-end collisions. And so their plans do show a deceleration lane. You can't really see. The TDOT will require that deceleration lane to have the same pavement schedule as what the current Concord Road is, and they have to approve that as to what that is. So all Daryl is saying is clarify that so that TDOT can also approve it, since it's work within their right-of-way, and they do have to get permits from the state to do work within the right-of-way.
And we've already submitted to TDOT for the curb cut permit, and we have no objections to doing that. That's not a problem. We understand that that's standard operating procedure, so
I
that's not a
didn't know,
problem.
though.
That's all right. No, it's quite all right.
Any other questions?
On 17, for new development, there is no requirement for just, you can go direct drainage right to the lake?
We're not directly draining straight to Fort Loudon Lake. We are providing a first flush capability via bioretention facilities for all the paved areas. The current property drains directly to Fort Loudon Lake. We are not changing the drainage pattern. We are going to provide first flush. In fact, we're providing bioretention for the first inch of water that hits all of the paved areas. So I think in talking with Daryl and with the staff, I think we've actually done more than they asked us to do in that regard. So we
Thank you for that, because that didn't
we don't
really come
want
through
Yeah,
what
we
we're
don't
reading here at all.
Yeah, the intent behind it is that the idea when you have stormwater detention is that you're detaining the water and then you release it at a slower rate. But when you're located right next to the water body that the water ultimately all goes to, you don't want to detain it when you're right next to it, because then you would be releasing at the same time other water from upstream is getting there, and you could actually
create bigger problems.
create
than-
bigger problems. So when you're immediately adjacent to the water, like Mark said, the first flush requirements are there, that we have to get all the nasties out of the water before it goes in, but we actually want the water to get, the stormwater to get to the lake fairly quickly.
Yes.
And that I did, but I did, the other part with the first flush was apparent to me.
Yeah, it wasn't apparent in that statement, but.
Questions? Anyone in the audience have a question? Now, Ruth, we're clear on the meet all town requirements. Does include the letter of credit, regardless of how it comes out?
Yeah, we're going to have to post a letter of credit for erosion control. We just want to make sure the amount is correct.
Okay.
That's all. We know that.
Do I have a motion?
My second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?